Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Dane, your host of the Rock and Metal Guardian. Today I'm going to talk about my top 25 favorite prog rock albums from the 1970s. So that's the kicker, the 1970s only. And this is something I've been working on for a very long time, going back to even before I started the channel. This is something that's always been on my mind. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved to make lists of things. As an English teacher, my favorite epic stories, my favorite novels, my favorite plays by Shakespeare, you name it. I do it with art, paintings and that sort of thing. Anyway, so before we dive in, I wanted to mention, I'm going to go backwards, of course, from 25 to 1, and then I'll give some honorable mentions at the end. And I wanted to point out that you're going to see some of the same bands repeated, and so there'll be multiple releases from some of the same bands. And I know some people, when they do their lists of similar things, even this may be exact same title, or subject rather, that they'll say that they limited themselves to X number of releases. I don't want to do that, and that's not to disrespect or mock or make fun. I totally respect their decision to, limit themselves because they would say it's boring. There isn't enough variety. But for me personally, and again, I'm not saying that when someone else does it that way that they're being dishonest. I respect that. But for me personally, only me, if I don't give multiple releases from some of the same bands, then it's not truly my top 25 favorite. It would be dishonest. So this stack here is my honest view, my honest take. These are absolutely, positively my top 25 favorite prog rock albums of all time. All right, so let's jump right in now. So coming in at number 25 is Red from King Crimson. And I'm going to go backwards here and talk about my favorite song on the album, which is the last, and that is Starless. This is 12 minutes and change, if I'm reading the fine print correctly. Yeah, 12 minutes and change. And then my second favorite song on here is Providence, which is just over 8 minutes. So you have some. It's a short album. I'm sorry, it's not a short album. It only has X number of songs. It only has 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 5 songs. Yeah, 5 songs. One more, Red Nightmare, which is 7 minutes and 7 seconds, is in the middle. That's, I think, quite a good song. Fallen Angel, the second song, is my least favorite. And the title track, Red, which opens the album, is amazing in my estimation. So I had to include this. I was torn between this and one of the honorable mentions you see, but I like this band more than the honorable mention I'll mention. Sorry for that double redundancy there. But yeah, this has to be my number 25. Number 24 is an album I've talked about before in a different capacity, and that is Soft Machine's album called Third, because yes, it is their third album. You only get 4 songs on the original release: Facelift, Slightly All the Time, Moon in June, and Out Bloody Rageous. The last 2 songs are 19 minutes and change. The second song, Slightly All the Time, almost 19 minutes, and Facelift, almost 19. So all 4 songs are approaching 19 minutes or just slightly longer than 19 minutes. So this was a double album on vinyl. And the last song, Out Bloody Rageous, is my favorite. This is one of those pieces that you have to be in the mood for. It's psychedelic prog, really. There's no guitar here. There's a few vocals here and there, but for the most part, it's instrumental. It's just amazing. The instrumentation on here is just phenomenal. So while more in the vein of psychedelic jazz rock fusion, critics have called this prog, and I agree. It's prog enough, and you'll see a couple other albums that many have argued this is pure prog, but some have argued not. But there are a couple other on my list today that are not pure prog by prog purists, but they're prog enough for me that I'm including them on this list. Again, have to be honest here. All right, so next, I don't have a prop for, is The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. And I had this on vinyl as a young man in high school. When you get songs like The Carpet Crawlers and wow, I'm at a loss for words about just thinking about the album and the songs on it. The title track, right? And just so moving and touching, and it's chaotic. And I know some people have regarded, myself included, as confusing and muddled with respect to the plot and the theme. But I think that's the point, because the protagonist, Rael himself, is torn and confused and moving in all these different directions, and he's partaking in the heroic quest, kind of a figurative descent into hell, and being moved around like a pinball, if you will. It's not the best way to describe it, but wow, just the instrumentation from everyone, whether you're talking about Banks or Steve Hackett, or the vocals from Peter Gabriel, and the drumming from Phil, and it's just solid. Mike Rutherford's bass and other instrumentation is just, I had to include it. The opening keys from Tony Banks on the title track is just fabulous. So The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, number 23. Number 22 is Kansas's album Song for America, their sophomore effort. And what I like about this is that they took what they did with their first album, just a self-titled debut, Kansas, and demonstrated how the debut was the practice run, if you will, for this album. There's just some amazing instrumentation, like you wouldn't believe, for a band that has violin and twin guitars and such great keys and synths and piano, and everything is just phenomenal on here. Maybe the bar blues tracks that Steve Walsh does isn't as good as the epic stuff. But when you talk about the epic stuff, you can see that here is where they're really coming into their own, where the epic tracks have matured and grown and gotten the full experience of what they envisioned in their heads or in their minds. So Song for America for me, and so I think for many others, is the full envisioning of what they wanted the band to be, including the ballroom blues stuff, whether you like that or not. And that's a staple of that early Kansas stuff anyway. And while I might skip some of that from time to time, I do enjoy listening to that stuff. It's I don't want to say it's quirky, but it's fun. And, it's part of what the Kansas experience is all about. All right, number 21 is Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Many back in the day thought this was a concept album, and I get it, because you open with Aqualung, and then you get Cross-Eyed Mary, which mentions the character Aqualung, so we could get why that may be. And you have the quote about theology on the back, about how man created God, not the other way around. And that's side 2, I believe, with Locomotive Breath. So those are my favorite songs: Aqualung, Cross-Eyed Mary, and Locomotive Breath, in that order. And then the way the album closes, I think, is the name of the song is eluding me for some reason. Sorry about that. But the way the album closes, I think, is befitting of the mood that Ian Anderson and company wanted for the album. I think it wraps up the album as a whole, again, almost giving you the feel of a concept album. And side 2 has that theological message hitting you over the head, so to speak. And the lyrics are phenomenal too, which makes the album one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite prog rock albums of the 70s of all time. Number 20 is Hot Rats, by Frank Zappa. I'm not the biggest Frank Zappa fan, but Hot Rats, Waka Jawaka, which I call Hot Rats 2, because on the cover, as you may know, it has a sink drawn in a cartoon-like style, and the left handle, the hot water, is hot, labeled, and then the cold water is labeled rats. So nicknamed, I guess, by many, well, at least myself, I call Waka Jawaka often Hot Rats 2. Has a similar feel to it, but not quite the same. You have those 2 epic tracks on there that are my favorite, and then you have some quirkier, shorter pieces there. And then my third favorite is Sleep Dirt. Those are my 3 favorite Zappa albums of all time. Here you got Peaches and Regalia, Willie the Pimp, Son of Mr. Green Jeans. So I'm guessing that Frank Zappa was a fan of the character Mr. Green Jeans from the children's show Captain. Now it's eluding me. Anyway, it'll come to me later in the morning. So Son of Mr. Green Jeans, Little Umbrellas, the Gumbo Variations, which is the epic, almost 13 minutes long, and It Must Be a Camel. This has some great guitar playing on it, and you get the vocals from Captain Beefheart in moments. I'm not a big Captain Beefheart person at all, but I like what he brings to the table on here. All right, next is Fragile by the group Yes. And here is, each song is about a member of the band showcasing their specific talent. For the most part, it begins with the fabulous Roundabout. Some have said that this is a song they've grown tired of. Not me. My least favorite song on here is Cans and Brahms, by Rick Wakeman. Again, my least favorite. But you have you have a few quirky songs like We Have Heaven, South Side of the Sky, and 5% for Nothing. They're very charming, if you ask me. Then you get the amazing Long Distance Run Around, one of the hits off the album. Then you get the Fish, the Chris Squire bass solo, and then in parentheses, the subtitle is the Genus and Species, which I won't try to attempt to pronounce. Then you get the wonderful but brief acoustic number from Steve Howe, Mood for a Day, and then my favorite song, the closing track, Heart of the Sunrise, with the heavy guitar and bass that opens the song, where Steve Howe and Chris Squire are trading licks, as it were. Just the holy grail of bass playing for me personally. That and La Via Stringiato by Rush are, to me, the two holy grail songs of bass playing. Anyway, so after Fragile by Yes, that was number 19. Number 18 is Abraxas by Santana, and some will argue this isn't pure prog. You would be right, but to me, it's close enough, so I'm including it here. So I'm cheating a little bit, I guess. Singing Winds, Crying Beast is the great opening track, and then you get the powerful and radio hit Black Magic Woman / Gypsy Queen, and then the other radio hit Oi Como Va. Incident at Neshabar is my favorite Santana song, most probably. Se Acabo, Mother's Daughter, Samba Pati, Hope You're Feeling Better, and El Nicoya. And there's some bonus tracks on here. So this is prog to me. Others have said it's prog as well. And I've always felt that way ever since I was probably a teenager, not when I first heard it, when my dad first bought it on vinyl. I don't think I knew what prog was back then, but when I moved away from home and I listened to it on CD for the first time, I was like, you know what? This has some serious prog elements to it. So anyway, number 17 is Nursery Crime from Genesis. And so what's great about this album is you get 3 epic tracks, and if you're a sucker for prog rock like me, especially the 70s, you want epic long tracks. It starts with the epic The Musical Box, almost 10 and a half minutes. The soothing, compelling voice of Peter Gabriel is perhaps unparalleled here. You get For Absent Friends, which is a short piece. You get the Monty Python-esque yet great song, The Return of the Giant Hogweed, 8 minutes and change. Seven Stones, a shorter piece. Even shorter piece, Harold the Barrel, my least favorite song of the album, but I do like it. Then you get the even shorter, just under 3 minutes, Harlequin, and my favorite song of the album to close out, The Fountain of Salampsis, a song about Greek mythology, specifically the transformation of the Greek god Hermaphroditus, the son of Hermes and Aphrodite, and the tragedy that ensues when he enters the water of that fountain. So my 3 favorite songs on here are The Musical Box, The Fountain of Salampsis, and The Return of the Giant Hogweed, all epic tracks. All right, next, Left Overture by Kansas. Like the album Red, it's the last song on the album. That's my favorite. This is called Magnum Opus. You get the great opening violin section from Robbie Steinhardt. And then you get the vocals of Steve Walsh talking about how rock and roll is just about hauling at the moon. And then you get the keys, and as you go along through the song, you get the wonderful, heavy guitar playing from Rich Williams and Kerry Livgren. Just a great song. And then you have wonderful songs like Carry On My Wayward Son, Cheyenne Anthem, What's on My Mind. My second favorite song would be The Wall. Just fabulous. This is one of those, all of these albums that I'm presenting to you here today, I don't think with any exception are great from beginning to end. All right, number 15, another Genesis album, which is Foxtrot. And another great album, Watcher of the Skies, great song to introduce an album. Timetable, Get 'Em Out by Friday. Can Utility and the Coastliners. Horizons, I think, is an underrated song. And then the fabulous, epic 23 plus minutes and change, Supper's Ready. And it's in different movements. And have to include it because of Supper's Ready. But even though Supper's Ready is what makes this in my top 25, all the other songs on here are great as well. But Supper's Ready, of course, is the centerpiece and focus of the album. So, great Genesis album. Foxtrot, that is. All right, next is Starless and Bible Black by King Crimson. And it starts with The Great Deceiver, which is, in a way, kind of Monty Python meets the Talking Heads, but I do not like the Talking Heads whatsoever. But, and of course, when Robert Fripp breaks up this version of the band and comes back with Adrian Belew and company, and he has a more Talking Heads feel, that stuff is okay. It's not as good as this or great as this. Is magnificent stuff. My favorite King Crimson period is the John Wetton, Robert Fripp, David Cross, Bill Bruford era, Jamie Muir on the previous album or two. And so back to Great Deceiver. Again, it has a Monty Python / Talking Heads feel, but Talking Heads maybe done the right way. And the song lyrics are quirky, singing about cigarettes, ice cream, figurines of a Virgin Mary, Brill cream, and silliness. But it's fun. Then you get the wonderful song Lament. Then We'll Let You Know. I love The Night Watch. It's just a powerful, compelling emotion. The lyrics of John Wetton are just some of my favorite. Trio, The Mincer, those are two underrated tracks if you ask me. Then you get the fabulous Starless and Bible Black. Not as good as Starless on Red, but it's up there. And then Fracture, I like even more than Starless and Bible Black. Anyway, King Crimson, Starless and Bible Black coming in at number 14. Number 3 is The Grand Illusion from Styx. My two favorite tracks on here are The Man in the Wilderness and Castle Walls, both Tommy Shaw-led songs. I also like the heavy song Miss America, co-sung by J.Y. and Dennis DeYoung. I think mostly J.Y. And, of course, you get Come Sail Away and Angry Young Man. Come Sail Away, I will sometimes skip, but it is a good song. It's weird how some songs are overplayed and you'll skip them from time to time, and then other songs are played to death, but they never get old. I guess it's just the way it is. So just a great album. I had the poster from this album on my wall as a child growing up when my mom gave this to me as a young man, and I had it underneath the Kiss poster I had on top of that, or above it rather, which was the bicentennial poster of them, with the wounded bandage on Peter Criss's head and the American flag. Anyway, number 13, some people are going to go, what? Number 12, Grand Illusion was 13. Number 12 for me is Caress of Steel by Rush. This is an album I just love. I know critics panned it and a lot of fans panned it or said it's unpolished, it's raw, it's a step down from the sophomore effort that is Fly By Night, and I would agree with that to an extent, and it's nowhere near as good as 2112. This is practice for 2112, so to speak, but even though it's not near as good as 2112 and it's not as good as Fly By Night, there's just something about it for me personally. It's in my blood, it's in my DNA. I love the bass of Bastille Day. The track that's silly is I Think I'm Going Bald, but it's got that heavy intro. I'll listen to it. Lakeside Park is a nice sentimental piece about Neil's childhood or younger years, right? And then you get the epic 12 and a half minute Necromancer, which just thinking about it, you get that moody intro and the narration with Pert's voice disguised. And it's heavy in moments. It's just a moody, dark piece that's very captivating and compelling. And then side 2, The Fountain of Lemnath, divided into 6 parts. And the highlights are No One at the Bridge and Bacchus Plateau. Those are the pieces I like the most. But I listened to the whole thing from start to finish. Thematically rich. Anyway, I just love this album. It is what it is. Number 11 is Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. And you have the bookends, kind of like, well, you have bookends in Shine On You Crazy Diamond that starts parts 1 through 5. Then you get Welcome to the Machine, Have a Cigar, Wish You Were Here. And then a return to Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 6 through 9. I like parts 1 through 5 better, even though parts 6 through 9 is almost the same thing. In many ways, you have these motifs, right? Light motifs. Excuse me. What's interesting about this album is that I made a playlist in my iTunes for Pink Floyd's album The Wall, and then I added songs from Animals, specifically Dogs, and the 2 songs on here, Welcome to the Machine and Have a Cigar, because it's about the protagonist in The Wall, Pink, to a degree, or it's really about Pink Floyd, but you do have the guy say, and by the way, which one's Pink in the song? So it works. It's not that much of a stretch to make it part, and I forget where. Maybe one day as a separate video, I could give you my playlist of all the songs that I added to The Wall to make it an even larger scope, epic, if you will. So this is a fantastic album. Gilmour's guitar playing on here is one of his better moments. He's a great guitar player all around, and he's one of my favorite guitarists of all time. But there's something magical about his guitar. His guitar playing is magical already, but it's super magical on Wish You Were Here. Number 10 is Dark Side of the Moon, so 2 Pink Floyd albums back to back. I failed to mention that some people don't regard Pink Floyd as progressive rock, but I do, because progressive rock is the child of psychedelia. And so psychedelia is the stepping stone on the way to prog rock in so many ways. And many people, this is not my theory, other people have pointed that out. And so people have pointed out that thematically, this album is about death. And yeah, we get that with Time and On the Run. But it's also, I think, more about the theme that runs through this album, making it a concept album, is the theme of lunacy. Songs like Eclipse, Brain Damage, you name it. So, just a great album. The vocals from the background singers on The Great Gig in the Sky is just phenomenal. That never gets old. This album for me never gets old. Do I listen to it every day? No, or every week? No, but I listen to it quite a lot. And for me it never gets old. Because it helps if you don't play it every day, right? Anyway, so number 9 is Close to the Edge by Yes. Only 3 songs here, but you got the glorious title track, which is like 23 minutes and change, and it's divided into movements. Go figure, it's prog rock, right? Then you got And You and I, which is moving in a different way. It moves you in a different way. It's captivating in a different way. And then Siberian Khatru is kind of a sing-along song in many ways. It's got a different tempo. It's more upbeat and just a great song. Great album. Got to include it as number 9. Number 8, more Pink Floyd, and that would be The Wall. So if we open up this baby, so much has been said about the songs here, but when you open up an album Within the Flesh, The Thin Ice, and Another Brick in the Wall, Part 1, and then The Happiest Days of Our Lives, some of this stuff is so heavy not necessarily heavy metal way, but it's heavy in a mood, with respect to mood, and heavy musically as well in some parts. And then you get Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, and then you get The Acoustic Mother, and the story's phenomenal. It's a biography of Roger Waters' life, right? Goodbye Blue Sky, Empty Spaces, Young Lust, One of My Turns. Pink gets angry and he has a conniption fit and he breaks his guitar and he runs off his girlfriend or his date or whoever she is, and then she leaves, and then he comes down from his anger and he's like, And the song is "Don't Leave Me Now," and he's come back, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, that kind of thing, right? Then you get Another Brick in the Wall, Part 3, Goodbye Cruel World, Hey You, Is There Anybody Out There? Just a brief thing. Nobody Home. A lot of people don't like Vera, including David Gilmour. I love Vera. Comfortably Numb, a bit overplayed, but the guitar solo is just phenomenal. Never gets old for me. The Show Must Go On, In the Flesh Part 2, so to speak. The glorious Run Like Hell, that guitar, that's great. Waiting for the Worms. Stop and The Trial are just phenomenal. And of course, it ends with Outside the Wall, which is a little bit of anticlimactic, but the climax, of course, is Stop and The Trial. Just great. So theatrical, just a great theatrical piece. All right. Number 7 is Rush's Hemispheres. And while there's some tracks on here I like better on live versions, specifically La Via Strangiato and The Trees, I like the live versions better. Whether you're talking about live in YYZ or Exit Stage Left, excuse me. Going backwards again, sorry. The song Circumstances, which opens side 2 on vinyl, is kind of a quasi-heavy song. I love the way Geddy sings on the song. And of course, all of side 1 is Cygnus X1 Book 2, Hemispheres, 18 minutes and 4 seconds, and thematically rich about the balance between the heart and the mind, emotion and logic, right? Great song. All right. Number 6 is my favorite Yes album, which is Relayer. Like Close to the Edge, you only have 3 songs, but you have the Gates of Delirium, my favorite Yes song, Sound Chaser, where Yes is diving into jazz fusion territory. They must have been listening to Miles Davis, as many people have pointed out. I'm not the first person to say that. And then the fantastic To Be Over. It says something about a band when they can put out 2 albums with only 3 songs. And the album is fantastic or phenomenal or compelling or amazing. Whatever adjective you want to choose. My favorite Yes album, Relayer. Number 5 has to be in my top 5. My favorite Genesis album of all time. Selling England by the Pound. What a way to open an album with Dancing with the Moonlit Night. And then you get the quirky I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe. If the Beatles, get to that in a second. If Genesis were to do an Abbey Road had Genesis done an Abbey Road style album, I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe has a Beatlesque or Beatles style quirkiness to it, right? It's very English, but it's more than the Englishness of it. Sitting down and it's lunchtime, having a cup of tea and all that. Monty Python again, maybe too, sort of, but it just has that Beatles Abbey Road feel to it, for whatever reason. Like side 2 of Abbey Road, it's silliness and yet not silliness. There's something magical and charming about it, right? That's the word, charming. And then my favorite Genesis song on the album, and my favorite Genesis song after Supper's Ready, is Firth of Fifth. Actually, this is my favorite song. I take that back. Supper's Ready is my second favorite. The Keys by Tony Banks on here is phenomenal, and everyone on the whole album and on the song is phenomenal. But what really captivates me here is Tony Banks is playing, and especially Steve Hackett's guitar playing, especially at the end. That's just great. More Fool Me, I think, is sung by Phil Collins, an underrated song. Battle of Epping Forest is phenomenal. After the Ordeal, I think, is underrated. The Cinema Show is just amazing, and I Love Plenty, I think, is also underrated. All right, number 4. Lark's Tongues and Aspic. That's a mouthful, right? This is like Wish You Were Here in the sense that the title track or bookends. You have Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 1, which is the heavier of the two. It's a blend of jazz, classical music, and hard rock / heavy metal. And then Part 2, the end of the album, is more mellow. It's for the most part totally different from Part 1, but I like it. And then in between, you have the John Wetton amazing vocal-led songs, Book of Saturday and Exiles, and then you get the charming and funny at times and goofy kind of lyrics, Easy Money, with the quirky creepy slash the quirky slash creepy laugh at the end. This is a song I sing out loud often when I play this, and it's just a great. And of course, it's the hit off the album. So number 4, Lark's Tongues in Aspic, my fourth favorite prog rock album of all time from the 70s. Number 3 is Animals, another Pink Floyd release. This also has bookends, Pigs on the Wing Part 1 to open and Pigs on the Wing Part 2. Both are exactly 1 minute and 24 seconds. And we'll get to what's in between, the meat of the CD, so to speak. Somewhere out there, if you can still get it on a compilation album, there is a version of Pigs on the Wing Part 1 and 2 that are combined by a guitar solo from Snowy White of Thin Lizzy. And I have that on MP3 only. I forget what album that's on. I think it's a compilation. It's not on any Pink Floyd album. And it's quite good. It's different, but I get why it goes with the story to bookend it the way it does. Because Pigs on the Wing is a reprise or reprised Pigs on the Wing 1, and it has a happy message compared to the opener. All right, so we get to Dogs, song number 2, my favorite song on the album, perhaps my favorite Pink Floyd song of all time. David Gilmour's guitar playing is amazingly heavy blues. The guitar playing is amazing. It's like heavy blues. Wow. To quote the Boston album, listen to the record. Then you get Pigs, 3 different ones. Love it. Sheep, love it. Just a great album. The centerpiece of the album is not Gilmour. Gilmour is the centerpiece of Dogs, by the way, which, in case you don't know, the first half of Dogs sung by Gilmour, second half sung by Waters. I love that. I wish they did more of that. But while Gilmour is the highlight of the song Dogs, Richard Wright is the highlight of this album. Everyone here is phenomenal, but Richard Wright, for me personally, is the highlight of this album. All right. Coming in at number 2 is Rush 2112. So, the title track, side 1, if you have the vinyl, nothing I say, well, anything I would say has been said already, right? But what I will say, and I've said it before, but it's worth repeating, is there's something super special, super magical about the song, the title track 2112, because it's thematically rich, it's compelling, it's theatrical, it's the band members stepping into roles, especially Geddy. He's playing all the parts. He's playing the priest. He's playing, the protagonist. It's sad, but it's hopeful. The guitar work from Leifson is just some of his best, especially in presentation, vocally and bass-wise, and all the instrumentation. This is some of the best work, hence being number 2. It's one of my favorite Rush albums of all time. You can look at that separate video if you haven't already. And then you get to side 2. You got the charming, heavy song, A Passage to Bangkok. We all know what that song is about, right? Then you get an even more quirky song, The Twilight Zone, probably my least favorite song on the album, but I do like playing it. And then you get Lessons, which the lyrics was written by Leifson, and yes, the song is about a lesson. Maybe it's a pun. I think it's open to interpretation, but there's definitely a lesson Leifson is focusing on. Then you get the Geddy Lee lyrics. Geddy Lee, wrote the lyrics for Tears. And this is a very sad song, hence the title. And the way the song ends is so compelling and captivating, and yet it's so sad. But it gives you goosebumps. But it's still a great song. I have to play this song from time to time. If I don't play the whole album, I will sometimes just put on Tears. It's just great. And then back to some heaviness with Something for Nothing, where Pert quotes here and there from our founding father, Benjamin Franklin. All right, finally, number 1 is Rush's A Farewell to Kings. They go medieval here a little bit with Madrigal and A Farewell to Kings. And A Farewell to Kings is heavy at times. It's classical in pieces. It has that medieval feel, and the lyrics are, thematically rich. It's just a phrase when I say something's thematically rich, it's something I look. In other words, it's something for me personally I look for in bands and albums and prog rock artists like this and others. Being an English teacher, it's all the more yes please kind of a thing, right? If you tell me, hey, you got to go buy this album that just came out, it's thematically rich, I'm going to check it out. So dealing with corruption in politics and getting rid of puppets, hence the back of the album cover, Puppet Kings, the front album of the cover, advancing society, making society better for everyone, and getting rid of monarchs who don't care about the people, right? And then you have the wonderful Xanadu, which is a throwback or homage to the poet, the British romantic poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and it's thematically rich. Yet the whole album is, and it's thematically similar to the dangers and pitfalls of immortality. And you get closer to the heart, which is about we all have our place in society, and don't take for granted your special talents. Don't waste your special talents, right? Use them. Then you have Cinderella Man. I can never remember what song the movie's based on, but it's heavy at times, and there's a great guitar solo. It's just a great song. When I first got this on vinyl as a young man in high school, I didn't really care for Madrigal, but it's very similar it's not similar in sound or song type to, say, Led Zeppelin's Battle of Evermore. Why I'm comparing them is because both of these songs I blew off and never played, and then one day I decided, hey, I'm going to play it. Same thing with Space Child from UFO on Phenomenon, and I was like, wow, this is actually quite good. So Madrigal is a great song, I think. It's different from everything else, but it has that medieval quality, and this whole album has, not the whole album because it's got some science fiction to come, as I'm about to talk about, but in parts it has a medieval feel to it. The title of the album cover, the back of the album, and here and there throughout the album, or for the most part in most of the album, excuse me. And finally, the non-medieval track, or one of the non-medieval tracks, is Cygnus X1, Book 1, The Voyage, and some amazing jazz fusion or jazz style drumming from Part, and killer bass lines from Geddy, and amazing guitar from Alex, right? Wow, I'm breathless just thinking and talking about it. But what I really like about this song is you have some more wailing from Geddy Lee in this, and he couldn't sing this now, right? And so when I'm in the mood for the heavy Geddy voice, I put this on, and there are other songs too, like 2112, but this is one of my favorite songs where Geddy's wailing his butt off, and I just love it. So there you have it, everybody. Farewell to Kings by Rush, my favorite prog rock album of the 70s. So here are some runners-up or on the cusp or honorable mentions. Number 26 is Thick as a Brick. I almost put it in number 25, but I listened to Red just a slight bit more, and Red for me is a little bit more pulling at my pulling at my, giving me goosebumps, right, kind of a thing. Then also Chicago 2, not a pure prog rock album, but as many, myself included, have argued, it's very proggy. The band Osabisa's second album, Woyaya, if I'm pronouncing that right, that is a great album. You should check it out if you're not familiar with it. Zappa's Waka Jawaka, and the first Kansas album. So there you have it, everybody. These are my top 25 favorite prog rock albums of the 1970s, with 5 honorable mentions. Go ahead and click the notification button if you can for upcoming videos for next week. And if you could please click the like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.